The Grand Council chamber stretched upward like the inside of a massive crystalline mountain. Ambassador Marcus Webb stood at the center of the circular floor, a single human figure surrounded by rising tiers of seats that spiraled toward a domed ceiling half a kilometer above. 400 worlds had sent their representatives. 400 alien species watched him with eyes, sensors, heat pits, and consciousness fields he could not fully comprehend. Marcus had been a diplomat for 20 years. He had negotiated trade agreements, resolved border disputes, and smoothed over cultural misunderstandings. But he had never faced anything like this. The air itself seemed to hum with judgment. Above him, Prime Arbiter Voth uncoiled his segmented body across the central judgment throne. The Vrel were an ancient species, their civilization spanning 50,000 years. Voth's translated voice echoed through the chamber with the weight of ages behind it. Ambassador Webb of Earth, humanity stands accused of violating Protocol 7 of the Civilized Species Compact. The charge is introduction of primitive violence methodology into our educational institutions. How do you answer? Marcus kept his hands clasped behind his back. His heart hammered against his ribs, but his voice remained steady. The accusation lacks context, Prime Arbiter. A ripple of sound moved through the gallery. Thousands of alien voices murmuring, chittering, humming their disapproval. Marcus had just contradicted the Arbiter in open council. It was not done. Voth's multiple eyes focused on the human. You dispute the evidence? I dispute the interpretation. A holographic display materialized in the air above Marcus. The image showed a classroom on Station Meridian, the Federation's premier military academy. The footage was frozen on a moment that had sent shockwaves through galactic society 3 weeks ago. A human man stood at the center of the classroom, holding what appeared to be a crude weapon constructed from broken furniture. The device was primitive, angular, and utterly alien to Federation eyes. Instructor James Reeves, Voth announced. Human, first of your species to teach at our military academy. This footage shows him demonstrating weapon construction using civilian infrastructure materials. The students present reported feeling threatened and disturbed. Marcus watched the image. James stood there with his improvised creation, surrounded by 20 cadets from a dozen different species. The human looked calm, focused, completely unaware that he had just triggered an interstellar incident. The Threne delegate rose from her seat 3 tiers up. Her crystalline body refracted the chamber lights into sharp geometric patterns. This is not mere methodology, Ambassador Webb. This is evidence of humanity's dangerous nature. Your species cannot be trusted with the education of our future leaders. More voices joined. The Kaltorian delegation called for immediate academic suspension. The Vortelian representatives demanded investigation into all human teaching materials. The chamber filled with accusations, each one building on the last. Marcus waited. He had learned long ago that the first person to lose their composure in a negotiation was the first to lose the negotiation itself. When the voices finally quieted, he spoke again. May I tell you what actually happened that day? You may speak, Voth said. But understand, Ambassador, this council will vote within one solar rotation on whether humanity should be expelled from the Federation entirely. Your words must be chosen with extraordinary care, expelled. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Humanity had fought for 40 years to gain admission to the Galactic Federation. Earth had proven itself technologically capable, culturally sophisticated, diplomatically mature. Membership had opened the stars to human exploration, human trade, human advancement. And now, because of one classroom demonstration, it could all end. Marcus stepped forward. To understand what Instructor Reeves did, you need to understand why he did it. The incident began 5 days before the footage you see here. It began with a challenge from another instructor. The holographic display shifted. New images appeared showing the interior of the same classroom from a different angle, an earlier date. The room was filled with students in their adaptive seating. At the front stood James Reeves, gesturing toward a tactical display. James had been teaching at Meridian for 6 standard months, Marcus continued. He was the first human professor, and not everyone welcomed his presence. Instructor Kalen, a Vortelian, had publicly opposed human involvement in Federation military education. The display showed a tall, elegant figure descending from an observation gallery on an anti-gravity platform. Kalen's robes marked him as senior faculty, his bearing radiating authority and disdain in equal measure. Instructor Kalen interrupted James's lesson, Marcus said. He challenged the value of human tactical methodology in front of the entire class. He questioned whether primitive species had anything meaningful to contribute to advanced military theory. Marcus could see some delegates shifting in their seats. Academic politics were universal, it seemed, even across species barriers. And then Kalen issued a specific challenge, Marcus continued. He asked James to demonstrate practical application of human tactical thinking. The scenario was simple. Imagine your technology failed. Your ship crashed on a hostile world. You have no weapons, no advanced tools, only the materials around you. A predator is approaching. You have 5 minutes. What do? The chamber had gone quiet again. Every representative was listening now. James had 3 choices, Marcus said. He could refuse the demonstration and appear weak. He could admit that human methods had no value without technology. Or he could accept the challenge and show what humans actually do when faced with impossible situations. He chose to create a weapon, the 3 delegates said accusingly, in an educational setting, with students present. He chose to survive, Marcus corrected. Which is what this is really about, not violence, not primitive methodology, survival. Voth leaned forward on his throne. Explain, Ambassador. And be thorough. This council will judge whether your species thinks like warriors or like members of civilized society. Marcus took a breath. The next words would determine Earth's future among the stars. Instructor Kalen didn't just challenge James's teaching, Marcus said. He challenged everything humanity has learned in 4 million years of evolution. Because we didn't evolve with natural weapons like claws or venom. We didn't develop in safe environments. We survived because we learned to adapt, to innovate, to turn anything around us into tools for survival. That's not savage, Prime Arbiter, that's human. The display shifted again, showing the beginning of the 5-minute countdown. James circled. The classroom, examining furniture, testing materials, thinking. What you're about to see terrified many species, Marcus said quietly. But I need you to understand something first. James didn't create a weapon because he wanted to. He created a weapon because he was asked to demonstrate how humans think, how we solve problems, how we refuse to accept death even when every logical calculation says we should. Voth's eyes narrowed. Show us, Ambassador. Show us what your instructor did. And then explain why we should not expel humanity for proving you are exactly as dangerous as we feared. Marcus gestured to the display. Then let me show you what happened when a human was given 5 minutes and classroom furniture. Let me show you why 400 worlds are afraid of what we can teach. The footage began to play. James Reeves walked slowly around the demonstration area, acutely aware that 23 pairs of alien eyes watched his every movement. The countdown timer floated in the air above him, glowing numbers marking the passage of seconds. 4 minutes and 58 seconds remaining. The classroom was standard Federation design. Modular furniture adapted for multiple species. Thin composite tables for data terminals. Adjustable seating with flexible support structures. Holographic displays powered by wireless energy transmission. Everything was sleek, efficient, and utterly unlike anything from Earth's earlier centuries. James reached one of the tables and ran his hand along its edge. The surface was a compressed polymer composite, light but strong. The frame underneath used flex metal supports designed to adjust for different table heights. He pressed down on one of the supports, testing its resistance, too thick. He moved to another table. 4 minutes, 30 seconds, Kalen announced from above. The Vortelian's voice carried satisfaction. He expected failure. He wanted failure. This entire demonstration was designed to prove that humans had no business teaching Federation cadets. James found a table with thinner support struts. These were longer, designed for a species that preferred lower working surfaces. He grabbed one strut with both hands and twisted. The metal bent but held. He adjusted his grip, braced the strut against his knee, and applied pressure at a different angle. The metal separated from the table base with a sharp crack. Several students flinched at the sound. Cadet Drix, an Anthony female who had been friendly since the semester began, leaned forward in her seat. Her translator conveyed confusion. "What is the instructor doing?" James didn't answer. He moved quickly now, pulling a second strut free from another table. The metal resisted, but human hands had spent millions of years learning to apply force effectively. The strut came loose. 4 minutes, Kalen said. "The predator draws closer, Professor Reeves. Perhaps you should rue." "And?" James ignored him. He moved to the seating area where adaptive chairs used a cord system to adjust for different body types. The cording was synthetic fiber, rated to support hundreds of kilograms. He examined the attachment points, then began unthreading the cords from their housings. His fingers worked quickly, pulling free 3 separate lengths. 3 minutes 30 seconds. A Keltorian cadet whispered to his neighbor, "Is this part of human tactical training? Creating things from random materials?" "I think he's building something," the neighbor replied. "But what?" James laid the 3 cords on the floor and began braiding them together. His grandfather had taught him this skill during summers on the family farm. Simple over-under-over pattern, keeping tension even, creating a stronger strand from multiple weak ones. The synthetic fiber braided smoothly, creating a cord that could support considerable weight. 3 minutes. James tested the braided cord, pulling hard on both ends. It held without stretching. Good. He picked up the longer metal strut and examined its ends. The flex metal was designed to bend without breaking, which made it perfect for what he needed. He used the edge of a table to score notches near each end of the strut. The polymer table edge was hard enough to groove the softer metal. "What is he making?" Cadet Drix asked aloud. "It looks almost like—" She trailed off. James could see understanding dawning on her face. 2 minutes 30 seconds, Kalen announced. His voice had lost some of its smugness. He was starting to understand too. James tied one end of the braided cord to the notch on the strut. He braced that end against the floor, then used his body weight to bend the strut into a curve. The flex metal resisted, wanting to spring back to straight. James fought the tension, bending the strut further. When he had it curved into the shape he wanted, he tied the second end of the braided cord to the other notch. The strut now formed an arc, held in tension by the cord connecting its 2 ends. He held a bow, primitive, rough, made from classroom furniture. But unmistakably a weapon. The chamber had gone completely silent. 2 minutes, Kalen said quietly. James moved quickly now. He needed projectiles. The thin composite table surfaces could be broken into shafts. He snapped off several pieces, each about 1/2 meter long. They weren't perfectly straight, but they would fly if the weight was distributed correctly. Using smaller fragments, he created crude fletching on one end of each shaft. The remaining cord secured the fletching in place. The other end he left jagged and sharp. 1 minute 30 seconds. James now had 3 arrows. They looked crude, primitive, almost insulting compared to the sleek energy weapons the Federation military used. But they were functional. Any human from Earth's past 10,000 years would have recognized what they were. 1 minute. James stood at the center of the demonstration area, the bow in his left hand, 3 arrows held loosely in his right. He could feel the weight of attention on him. Every student, every instructor in the observation gallery, every monitoring system in the academy was focused on this moment. 30 seconds, Kalen said. The Vortelian had descended from the gallery. He stood at the edge of the demonstration area, staring at the weapon James had created. "What have you done?" "What any human would do," James replied. "I adapted." "Time," Kalen announced. James knocked one of the arrows. The crude shaft seated awkwardly against the braided string, but it held. He drew the string back. The flex metal strut creaked under the pressure, bending further. The braided cord stretched slightly but maintained tension. James felt the familiar resistance, the stored energy waiting to be released. He aimed at the impact-rated wall panel on the far side of the classroom. The panel was designed to absorb energy weapon fire during safety demonstrations. Plasma bolts, laser pulses, particle beams, all could be safely fired at that wall. No one had ever shot an arrow at it. James released. The string snapped forward. The arrow leaped from the bow. It crossed the classroom faster than most students could track, a primitive projectile moving through a space designed for advanced technology. The arrow struck the impact panel with a solid thunk that echoed through the chamber. It embedded itself 3 centimeters deep into material designed to disperse directed energy attacks. No one moved. No one spoke. The arrow quivered slightly in the wall panel, its crude fletching still vibrating from the impact. James knocked the second arrow, drew, and fired. Another solid hit, half a meter from the first. The third arrow followed immediately. Grouping all 3 within a handspan of each other, James lowered the bow and turned to face Kalen. You asked for a demonstration of human tactical methodology. This is it. We don't need perfect conditions or advanced technology to be dangerous. Give us anything, furniture, scrap, natural materials, and we'll turn it into tools. Into weapons. We adapt, we survive, we overcome. That's why humans deserve to teach at this academy. Cadet Drix rose from her seat, her anterior appendages raised in the anthery gesture of profound respect. Instructor Reeves, I've never seen anything like that. You created a functional weapon in 5 minutes from classroom materials? Other students began standing. Some looked amazed. Others looked thoughtful. A few looked uncertain, but James was watching Kalen's face, and what he saw there made his blood run cold. It wasn't admiration in the Vortelian's eyes. It wasn't even anger at being proven wrong. It was something far worse. It was fear. Pure, instinctive, existential fear. You have no idea what you've just done, Kalen whispered. The footage of James creating the bow spread through the Federation's networks within hours. By the next morning, every military academy in the galaxy had reviewed it. By the second day, the civilian educational networks were analyzing it. By the third day, it reached the Galactic Council's Security Committee. James stood in the Dean's office, watching his own demonstration play for the 8th time. Dean Praxis, a Cetarian whose species had been Federation members for 3,000 years, kept pausing the footage at specific moments. The drawing of the bow, the flight of the arrows, the penetration into the impact panel. Walk me through what they're seeing, Praxis said. His skin patterns had shifted to deep purple, the Cetarian expression of concern. Because what I see is impressive improvisation. What the Council apparently sees is a threat to galactic security. James gestured at the frozen image. Every species in the Federation developed energy weapons before they achieved interstellar travel. That's the universal technological path. Fusion power leads to plasma projection. Plasma projection leads to directed energy weapons. By the time any species meets another, they've abandoned kinetic weapons for thousands of years. Humanity followed a different timeline. We used kinetic weapons for our entire history until very recently. Rocks, spears, arrows, bullets. We got extremely good at throwing things at each other. When we developed energy weapons, we didn't abandon the old methods. We kept both. James paused. And kinetic weapons have advantages the Federation has forgotten about. Praxis's pattern shifted slightly. Such as? They're simple, low-tech, hard to detect with standard sensors. Most Federation security systems scan for energy signatures, plasma charges, explosive compounds. A wooden arrow? It's invisible. Just organic material moving through space. James met the Dean's eyes. In 5 minutes, with furniture, I made something that could kill anyone in that classroom. And the Federation's entire security architecture wouldn't detect it until it was too late. The Dean was quiet for a long moment. You taught them a principle, yes. A principle that could be applied with any materials. Any species could learn this. That's what has them scared, James said. It's not just one bow. It's the knowledge that primitive can be just as deadly as advanced, maybe more deadly, because no one is watching for it anymore. The office door opened. Ambassador Marcus Webb entered looking exhausted. He had dark circles under his eyes and his usually impeccable suit was wrinkled. "James, Dean, we have a serious problem." "We're aware," Praxis said. "The footage has gone viral. It's worse than that." Marcus pulled up a holographic display. Official seals from a dozen delegations appeared. The Threen have filed a formal complaint under the Civilized Species Compact. They're arguing that teaching improvised weapon construction violates the prohibition on arms proliferation. James felt his stomach drop. Arms proliferation was one of the Compact's most serious violations. Species who broke that rule faced immediate sanctions, trade embargoes, even military intervention. "I was teaching tactical thinking," James protested. "You were creating weapons from civilian infrastructure in an educational setting surrounded by students from multiple species." Marcus's voice was tight. "Do you understand how that looks to civilizations that have spent millennia specifically designing their societies to prevent that kind of thinking?" Dean Praxis stood. "Surely the Council will see reason." This was a single demonstration in response to a challenge from another instructor. "The Kaltorians are calling it civilization regression doctrine," Marcus said. "The Vortelians want all human instructors suspended pending investigation. And the Threen are pushing for humanity's expulsion from the Federation entirely." The room went silent. Expulsion, after 40 years of working toward Federation membership, after decades of proving humanity's worth. It could all end because James had made a BOF. Wrong classroom furniture. "They're arguing that if one human can do this casually in 5 minutes, then Earth represents a fundamental security threat," Marcus continued. "That human teaching could undermine the entire structure of galactic civilization." "That's insane," James said. "Is it?" Marcus pulled up more footage. Security briefings from multiple species. Analysis from military strategists. Theoretical scenarios of what would happen if improvised kinetic weapons became widespread. "They're terrified, James. The Federation built their entire security model on technology. Energy signatures, plasma detection, explosive compound sensors. Your bow is invisible to all of it. And you just taught 23 cadets from 17 species the principle." James sank into a chair. "I didn't think about it that way." "No one did. That's the problem." Marcus ran a hand through his hair. "There's going to be a hearing. Full Galactic Council. They'll review everything, hear testimony from students and faculty, and vote on whether humanity violated the compact." "What happens if they decide we did?" Marcus looked at him steadily. "Earth gets expelled from the Federation. All human citizens get recalled from Federation space. Every trade agreement, every technology exchange, every alliance gets dissolved. Humanity goes back to being alone in the galaxy." Dean Praxis's skin patterns had turned almost black. "When is the hearing?" 3 weeks. "It's already been scheduled." Marcus looked at James. "You'll need to testify. They'll want to hear directly from you about what you were thinking, what you were teaching, what your intentions were." "My intentions were to show tactical adaptability," James said. "To demonstrate that sophisticated thinking doesn't require sophisticated tools." "Then you better be ready to convince 400 alien species of that," Marcus said. "Because right now, they think you're dangerous. And they're trying to decide if humanity is too dangerous to trust." Over the next 3 weeks, the debate raged across the Federation. Some species defended humanity, arguing that diversity of thought strengthened the galactic community. Others demanded immediate action, insisting that primitive violence methodology had no place in civilized space. Public opinion split along strange lines. Younger generations, especially students, tended to support the human approach. Older, more established powers pushed for expulsion. Military strategists were divided. Some saw value in adaptability training. Others saw only chaos. Through it all, James prepared his testimony. He reviewed the footage countless times. He consulted with human historians, anthropologists, and military experts. He tried to find words that would help alien minds understand why humans thought the way they did. But as the hearing date approached, He kept coming back to one terrifying realization. He had demonstrated something the Federation didn't want to see. Not because it was wrong, but because it challenged everything they believed about progress and civilization. He had shown them that sometimes the old ways were still effective, that primitive didn't mean inferior, that sophisticated thinking could apply to simple tools, just as well as advanced technology. And that scared them more than any energy weapon ever could. Grand Council chamber hummed with tension as Marcus finished explaining the context behind the demonstration. 400 species watched him from rising tiers that spiraled toward the domed ceiling. Some listened with curiosity, others with barely concealed anger. All of them waited to hear what he would say next. Prime Arbiter Voth leaned forward on his throne. So your defense is that Instructor Reeves was provoked by Instructor Kalen? That somehow makes the violation acceptable? No, Marcus said carefully. My defense is that you're all asking the wrong question. A murmur ran through the chamber. Several delegates made sounds of outrage. One did not contradict the Arbiter twice in a single hearing. Voth's multiple eyes narrowed. Explain yourself, Ambassador. Your species has very little goodwill remaining. Marcus stepped forward. You're debating whether James's demonstration violated the compact, whether humans teaching improvised tactics threatens Federation security, whether Earth should be expelled for introducing primitive violence methodology. He paused. But you're not asking why humans developed these skills in the first place. The Threen delegate rose, her crystalline form refracting light into sharp angles. The why is irrelevant. The fact remains that your instructor created a lethal weapon from civilian materials in minutes. That knowledge is now in the minds of dozens of students. You're right, Marcus agreed. That knowledge cannot be erased. But you need to understand where it comes from. He activated a new holographic display. An image of Earth appeared, rotating slowly in the air above the chamber floor. Continents, oceans, clouds swirling in familiar patterns. My species evolved on a world that was actively trying to kill us, Marcus said. We had no natural weapons. No claws like the Tarvine. No venom like the Kaltorians. No armor plating like the Thruken. We were weak, slow, and vulnerable. More images appeared. Early humans hunting, building shelters, fleeing from predators. The images showed humanity's long struggle for survival. We lived in a world filled with creatures stronger than us, faster than us, better equipped for violence than us. Any one of hundreds of predator species could have driven humans to extinction. Marcus's voice grew stronger. So we adapted. We learned to turn everything around us into tools. A stick became a spear. A rock became a hammer. Vines became rope. This wasn't about being warlike. This was about refusing to accept death. A new delegate stood, one Marcus didn't recognize. The being spoke through a translation field. Many species face difficult evolutionary pressures. That does not excuse teaching violence to others. Instructor Reeves wasn't teaching violence, Marcus said. He was teaching survival. There's a difference, is there? Voth asked. A weapon is a weapon, Ambassador. Marcus pulled up new footage. Human rescue operations. Earthships pulling survivors from disabled vessels. Human engineers rebuilding infrastructure after natural disasters. Human medics treating injuries across species barriers. These are humans using the same adaptability that let us make a bow from furniture, Marcus said. When the Aetheri colony ship failed in deep space, who jury-rigged a power system from mining equipment to keep life support running? Human engineers. When the Kaltorian station lost atmosphere processors, who built temporary replacements from cargo containers? Human technicians. When the Threen-Vortalian border conflict threatened to escalate, who developed the compromise settlement framework? Human diplomats. He let the images play. Dozens of incidents over the past 40 years where human improvisation had saved lives, prevented disasters, resolved conflicts. We're dangerous because we refuse to give up, Marcus continued. Because we solve problems other species consider unsolvable. Because we survive situations that would destroy others. Yes, that same quality means we can make weapons from furniture. But it also means we can make solutions from impossibilities. Cadet Drix suddenly rose in the visitor gallery. Prime Arbiter, may I speak? Voth looked surprised. This is highly irregular. Cadets do not address the council. Please, Drix insisted. I was in that classroom. I need you to understand what it meant. Voth considered for a long moment, then gestured. Approach. Drix descended to the chamber floor. Her movements were uncertain, but her voice was clear. My people have been Federation members for 300 years. We follow every protocol. We trust our technology. We believe in proper procedures. She paused, and Marcus could hear emotion in her translator's output. Last cycle, my brother was on a transport that suffered complete systems failure in an unmonitored sector. Standard protocol said to activate emergency beacons and wait for rescue. They waited. They followed procedure. They all died. The chamber fell completely silent. After watching Instructor Reeves, I kept thinking about that transport, Drix continued. What if someone aboard had known how to improvise? How to create tools from debris? How to think beyond the manual? She looked up at the assembled delegates. Instructor Reeves didn't teach me violence. He taught me that I don't have to be helpless when technology fails. That's not dangerous. That's essential. Other cadets stood in the gallery. A Keltorian. A Vortelian. Even a Threen. One by one, they descended to the chamber floor. The Keltorian spoke first. My ancestors survived an axial shift by adapting, by using whatever they could find. We've forgotten those skills. Instructor Reeves helped me remember that sophistication isn't just about technology. The Vortelian added, I thought humans were crude, simple. That demonstration showed me that ingenuity works at any technology level. That's not primitive. That's sophisticated thinking applied differently than we're used to. The Threen cadet's voice was soft. I was afraid when I saw that ball. But now I'm more afraid of forgetting how to think when our technology isn't there to think for us. Marcus watched Voth's face. The Arbiter's expression was difficult to read, but something had shifted in the chamber's atmosphere. Prime Arbiter, Marcus said quietly. You wanted to vote on whether humans are too dangerous for the Federation. But perhaps the real question is whether the Federation is strong enough to include dangerous people. Whether galactic civilization can handle diversity of thought, even when that diversity makes us uncomfortable? Voth was silent for a long time. Then he spoke. The council will adjourn to deliberate. We will vote within the hour. Marcus waited in an anteroom while the Galactic Council deliberated. Through the translucent walls, he could see the council chamber, could watch the representatives of 400 worlds debating humanity's fate. He couldn't hear the words, but he could see the gestures, the body language. The shifting alliances. Dean Praxis stood beside him. The Cetarian skin patterns cycled through colors Marcus had learned to recognize. Purple for concern, blue for hope, green for uncertainty. Right now, Praxis was flickering between all three. How do you think it went? Praxis asked. Marcus shook his head. I have no idea. The cadets speaking up helped. But I can't read Vaeth. He's been Arbiter for 200 years. He's seen everything. Through the wall, they watched a cluster of Threen delegates in heated discussion. Crystalline forms refracting light as they gestured at holographic data. The Threen are the key, Praxis said. If they withdraw their expulsion demand, others will follow. But if they push forward, then we're going home, Marcus finished. Back to Sol System, back to being alone. His communicator chimed. It was James, calling from Station Meridian. Marcus accepted. Any word? James asked. He looked tired. The past 3 weeks had aged him. They're deliberating now. Should know within the hour. Marcus, I'm sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. I know, but intentions don't always matter. Sometimes the consequences speak louder. Marcus tried to smile. Though for what it's worth, I think you were right. They did need to see what human adaptability looks like, even if it gets us expelled. Even then, because at least we'll know we stayed true to who we are. The communicator went quiet for a moment. Then James said, "The bow is still mounted in the classroom, behind security glass now. Students come by to look at it between classes. Some of them leave notes." "What kind of notes?" "Thank you notes. Requests for more demonstrations. Questions about Earth history and human survival techniques." James's voice carried a mixture of pride and sadness. "I think we reached them, Marcus. The students, at least. They understand. Let's hope their governments do too." Movement in the council chamber. The delegates were returning to their seats. Marcus ended the call and moved to the entrance. "It's time," Praxis said. They walked back into the chamber together. Marcus resumed his position at the center of the floor. Above him, 400 species looked down with alien eyes. Prime Arbiter Voth called for order. The chamber fell silent. "The Galactic Council has deliberated," Voth announced. "We have considered the evidence, heard testimony, and debated the implications of human teaching methodology. We are ready to vote." Marcus felt his heart hammering. This was it. Everything Earth had worked for. Every dream of humanity walking among the stars. All of it came down to this moment. "However," Voth continued, "we find that the question before us was incorrectly framed." Marcus blinked. That was not what he expected. The original vote was to concern expulsion of humanity for violating the civilized species compact through teaching. Primitive violence methodology. VUFs. Multiple eyes focused on Marcus. But the testimony today has convinced this arbiter that we were asking the wrong question. The three delegates stood. "Prime Arbiter, our position has not changed. Humans represent a security threat." "And they also represent a survival advantage," Voth replied. Cadet Drix spoke of her brother's death. How many others have died because they followed protocol when improvisation might have saved them? How many disasters have worsened because we forgot how to adapt? He gestured toward the holographic display still showing James's bow. "This weapon frightens us because it reminds us that sophistication is not the same as superiority. That our advanced technology has made us dependent. Perhaps too dependent." Voth turned to face the full assembly. "Therefore, the Council will vote on a different measure. Not expulsion, but expansion. The Human Adaptability Curriculum. A formal program to be taught across Federation military academies, led by qualified human instructors. Not to make us more violent, but to make us more resilient." The chamber erupted in discussion. Marcus stood frozen, unsure if he had heard correctly. The Kaltorian delegate rose. "Prime Arbiter, are you suggesting we officially adopt primitive methodology?" "I am suggesting we adopt adaptive thinking," Voth corrected, "which humans have refined over millions of years of evolution. We do not have to become primitive to learn from those who remember how to think beyond technology." The three delegates' crystalline form flashed with agitation. "This is unprecedented. So is having a species that survived and thrived without any natural advantages except their ability to adapt." Voth looked at Marcus. Ambassador Webb asked if the Federation is strong enough to include dangerous people. "I believe we must be. Because the alternative is stagnation." "The Threen delegation cannot support this," the crystalline delegate said. "Then the Threen delegation may abstain from the vote," Voth replied. "This council was built on diversity. We will not abandon that principle now." The vote commenced. Marcus watched as delegation after delegation cast their choice. Green lights for approval. Red lights for rejection. Yellow lights for abstention. The Threen abstained. The Vortelians abstained, but the Kaltorians voted green. The Anthori voted green. The Cetarians voted green. When the count finished, the display showed 372 votes in favor. Marcus felt his knees go weak. They had won. Not just survived, but won. "Ambassador Webb," Voth said formally, "the Galactic Council has voted to expand human teaching presence in Federation educational institutions. Instructor Reeves will retain his position at Station Meridian. Additional human faculty will be recruited. The Human Adaptability Curriculum will become required learning for all military cadets. He paused, and something that might have been humor colored his voice. Please inform Instructor Reeves that his demonstration, while highly irregular, has been deemed profoundly instructive. We will be sending him significantly more students. Marcus found his voice. Thank you, Prime Arbiter. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, thank you. As he left the chamber, Marcus pulled up his communicator. James answered immediately, his face tight with anxiety. Well? Marcus couldn't stop grinning. Start preparing more lesson plans. You just became the most in-demand instructor in the Federation. We're not expelled. Better, they want you to teach everyone. Marcus laughed at James's stunned expression. Turns out the galaxy doesn't mind learning from primitives. As long as we're useful primitives. Back on Station Meridian, in the now famous classroom, James stood looking at his improvised bow behind its security glass. The plaque beneath read, "Adaptability is not primitive. It is survival." Students gathered around, asking questions, taking notes, already thinking about what else they could learn from human history and across 400 worlds. Military academies began updating their curricula, adding sections on improvisation, on adaptability, on thinking beyond technology. Humanity had proven they belonged among the stars. Not despite their primitive methods, but because of them. Because sometimes the most advanced wisdom was remembering that sophistication wasn't measured by technology, but by the ability to survive anything the galaxy was learning. And humans were teaching, retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.